Welcome back. We're going to continue on the discussion with feeding the growing horse. Now, we're going to talk about the pre-weaning period and then that post-weaning period up to, we consider them a yearling or 12 months of age. Now, the pre-weaning period kind of considered from 2 months of age to whenever you decide you're going to wean that young horse. Now, some goals that you should keep in mind during this period is we want to ensure that we're preserving that strong foal mare bond. We don't want to unduly stress that foal, which could lead to lower intake of any feed or even nursing on mom. Then we also need to ensure we're providing a balanced diet to that lactating mare because this is a very demanding cycle on her. And so we need to make sure we're meeting her nutrient needs while monitoring this foal's growth so we ensure it's nice and even leading up to that yearling year. Now, according to the NRC, mares that weigh 500 kilograms or 1,100 pounds during this pre-weaning period should be producing up to 16 liters of milk per day. Now, the foals are very curious and they like to mimic what mom's doing and they're very observant. So within even the first week of life, they may start looking around and nibbling what mom's eating. And they may start to take in some solids. So it's going to depend on how much is available to them, with the mare's feed or with the pasture. But foals will start to get some solids then. And then we introduce this idea of creep feeding. Now, creep feeding is where you want to feed the foal where the mare can't get at it. So we feed them in a creep feeder because, again, that mare's very hungry. She's lactating. And if you feed a foal right next to the mare, she tends to eat that foal's meal too. She's like, oh, you just drink my milk. And that can raise some concerns because we don't know if the foal is getting all the nutrients it needs just from that milk. So here's some reasons to creep feed. Again, you're going to provide some extra calories to that foal, especially those with slow growth. We're going to supplement their diets with vitamins and minerals to ensure we're meeting all their needs. And then we want to reduce stress during weaning because imagine, we're taking this foal off the side of the mare and then we're giving them solids. If they've not been introduced to that or used to eating that, it can make the weaning process more difficult for them. And again, we want to reduce those growth fluctuations that we see around weaning, which could lead to problems down the road for that young horse. Now, what are some reasons not to creep feed? Maybe the foal's growing great. It's smooth and everything looks fine. Mare's milk, incidental feeding is getting plenty of what it needs, but is it? We don't know if they're getting all of their vitamins and minerals, right? Which again can lead to these developmental orthopedic diseases if we have some of these deficiencies. So that is a concern. So the question is when to introduce this. And the general guidance is around 2 to 3 months of age. And it's going to depend on that individual foal. But when they get to about 60 to 90 days of age is when you would want to start to introduce creep feeding. How to creep feed, again, this is something you want to put away from the mare where she cannot get to it. So that's known as a creep feeder, which in this slide you can see an image of that where the foals can get at it and the mare can't. So those foals are getting the nutrients they need away from the mare. Now, how to select a creep feed or a feed you want to give your young growing horse? Well, you want to look at the feed tag and the guaranteed analysis. You want to look for 14 to 16% crude protein, 0.7% lysine, 0.8% calcium, 0.5% phosphorus. So it should be listed on there, and you want to make sure when selecting a creep feed it has those values. Then, when you look at the ingredient list, you would want to see things like soybean meal, alfalfa, oats, oils. These are all highly digestible feeds for that young growing horse. Now, how much? Now, that's going to depend on the individual young growing horse because we know they're not all the same. They're born in different months, and that means the pasture availability may be higher or lower. Some months it's lush, other months it's bare. And they're all going to grow differently. So, general guidelines is you want to keep that foal in a body condition score between a 4 to 5 out of that 1 to 9 scale. And the general guidelines is 1 kilo or 1 pound or half a kilogram of creep feed per month of age. So, for example, a 3-month old foal, that would be 3 pounds of the creep feed or 1.5 kilograms. So when you look at a commercial mare-and-foal feed, so there's a lot of feeds on the market around the world that are marketed as good for both the mare and foal, and you can feed them side by side. And if we looked at that diet, if we fed that foal that commercial feed, and we assume they're getting about 5 liters of milk, this is at 5 months of age. So as they get older, they're going to drink less and less milk from that mare, and they're going to eat more solids. So if we provide them some mixed hay, that's that high quality, nutrient dense hay, legume, grass mix at 13% crude protein, give them a flake a day, free choice pasture, then give them that mare and foal feed at 4.5 pounds or 2 kilograms. That's per the manufacturer's recommendations, and then feed them some salt. Now, again, if you gave this next to the mare because you couldn't build a creep feeder or didn't have a creep feeder, the mare would probably eat some of that. So that is a concern there too. But when we look at that diet with that commercial mare and foal feed, we can see when we compare it to the NRC recommendations for these young growing horses, we're deficient in some key nutrients, things like, sulfur and then vitamin D. So that is a concern because you don't know if the foal is getting all their nutrients. And that's why you may want to consider customizing your mare and foal diet. Doing that is going to give you many advantages. And we're going to talk about that here in a second. But one of the things you want to consider is you want a balanced diet. Again, that mare and lactation. So we need to ensure we're meeting her nutrient needs. And we need to monitor that foal and their growth rates so we can adjust a customized diet based on those individual horses' needs instead of just, throwing some scoops of a bagged feed. So let's look at a customized mare and foal diet. What would that look like? So this is the diet of the 5-month-old foal. Again, 5 liters of milk. That's about what we're assuming they're consuming each and every day. We can give them up to a flake of that mixed hay, 13% crude protein, that free choice pasture. Then we can introduce alfalfa cubes, those roasted soybeans, which are excellent sources of protein, some wheat bran, the omni-80 pellets. That's critical to ensure we're covering any of those gaps in those forages and other feeds. So we want to make sure they're getting the appropriate vitamins and minerals in their diet, and we're above the 100% mark there. And then we can add some salt, again, just like your adult horses, that sodium need, and then also encourages drinking of water. Now, again, that might seem like, whoa, that's a lot, but keep in mind, this is a customized diet because every foal is an individual, and you can adjust this if you need to decrease energy in the diet instead of cutting back on a bagged feed. Because anytime you cut back on a bagged feed, you're going to reduce the vitamins and minerals that horse is getting and other key nutrients. So keep that in mind when you look at something like this, and you can do this and adjust it based on the growth of that foal. Then when we carry it out to those important nutrients, you can see we're all or meeting the NRC requirements for young growing horses. Key considerations here before weaning or during weaning, so leading up to weaning and then during the weaning process, can be very stressful to the foal. So you want to watch some of these signs because a stressed foal will probably reduce some of their intake. They won't be eating as much or eating at all. So you want to look at some of these signs of increased vocalization, some of these stereotypic behaviors, those abnormal movements, that weaving, swaying, cribbing. Are they eating? Are they sleeping? Are they aggressive to you or to other horses? Cribbing or redirected suckling. They're trying to suckle something else, or not even playing. They're not being a young horse. So keep that in mind when you observe them, and any concerns, always speak to your veterinarian. So then that takes us to the post-weaning to yearling. What are some considerations there? So when you look at this phase of, roughly 6 months to a year, you want to ensure that you're providing the energy and protein from high quality forages. Pasture is great as long as it's productive, but also those nutrient dense hays. You want to avoid those periods of rapid growth. And we talked about that with the fluctuations. We want that smooth growth because we know when we have rapid growth or other problems can lead to these DODs. And again, that customized diet, this is where it could be beneficial, where you might need to cut back on some of the energy because the foal's growing too fast, or this weanling going to the yearling year is growing too fast. So you need to adjust that diet a little bit, but you want to ensure you're still meeting those protein, their amino acids, their vitamin, mineral needs. Always keep in mind too, genetic risk for DODs we tend to see in our larger breeds, but again, any breed of horse, young growing horse can experience that. So let's look at an example diet. And this is a very rough generality, but this is something you can keep in mind. Again, customizing the benefits are you can make easier adjustments than cutting back on that bagged feed. So if we look from 6, 9, and 12 months, you can see that mixed hay, that good mixed alfalfa grass hay. You can see it goes up as they get to that yearling year. Pasture, free choice, alfalfa cubes, the soybeans again. You can add oil, especially to the horse that needs more energy in the diet as they get to the 9, 12-month age. That omni-80, again, that vitamin mineral mix is very, very critical to ensure we're meeting all of their nutrient needs, and then some salt. So again, you can mix and match or adjust it as needed. Some key considerations: always monitor their growth rate, right? Work closely with a qualified equine nutritionist. They can help customize this diet and make recommendations based on that individual young horse's needs. Again, they're all different. And so you need to tailor the diet to what that young growing horse needs. Any health concerns, again, always speak with your veterinarian and they can give you some sage advice. So, overall, two key critical time points in these young growing horses: that pre weaning phase and then that post weaning up to the yearling phase. We've got some more great videos coming your way, so look for those.